What if I told you that hidden in the ancient wisdom of the mystics lies a sacred vehicle of light that connects body, mind, and spirit across dimensions? Today we delve into the mysteries of the Merkaba, a star-shaped chariot of the soul, a gateway to divine consciousness. The Merkaba is not simply a symbol. It is a vehicle of living light, a bridge between heaven and earth, between spirit and matter. It is found in Hermeticism, esoteric Christianity, Sufism, and modern spiritual teachings. A symbol often represented as the star tetrahedron, two intertwined pyramids forming a three-dimensional star. The Merkaba is more than a symbol. It's an invitation to remember that you are a multidimensional being of light, to walk in harmony, to embody heaven and earth, and to realize that the divine chariot already resides within you. What if your soul already rides a chariot of light, a vehicle that transcends time, space, and fear? This is the mystery of the Merkaba, the ancient star of the union of spirit and matter. The concept of the Merkaba is complex, ancient, and profoundly transformative. But what we call the Merkaba today is not a single tradition, but rather the meeting point of two very different worlds. On the one hand, we find the ancient Jewish mysticism of the Merkaba. Rooted in the prophetic vision of Ezekiel, it describes a divine chariot of fire, the throne of God carried by angelic beings. This tradition was esoteric, occult, and considered dangerous. Its study was reserved for a select few, and its mysteries were said to reach the very threshold of heaven. On the other hand, in our modern era, the New Age interpretation of the Merkaba emerges. Here, it is no longer a distant chariot of God, but a personal, radiant vehicle of light. Visualized as a rotating star tetrahedron, two interlocking pyramids, it becomes a tool of healing, ascension, and spiritual awakening. This transformation reveals something far greater than a symbol. It reflects a cultural shift in humanity's search for divinity, from the ancient awe of a transcendent God enthroned in mystery, to the modern understanding that divinity also resides within us, waiting to be activated. The Merkaba, then, is both the chariot of the heavens and the chariot of the soul, a journey toward the divine and toward the awakening of the self. A profound difference in understanding the Merkaba begins at its very root, in the word itself. In ancient Hebrew, Merkava, Merkaba, comes from the root RKB, meaning to ride or to be carried. In this context, it refers directly to a chariot, specifically the chariot throne described in the vision of the prophet Ezekiel. This was not a metaphor. It was an external divine vehicle, driven not by man, but by God, bearing the likeness of a man, the radiant glory of the divine. Here, the mystical experience placed God at the center. The human seeker was the witness, never the driver. But in stark contrast, the modern New Age movement reinvents the word entirely. Instead of Hebrew, it draws on an Egyptian etymology, Mer, meaning light, Ka, meaning spirit, and Ba, meaning body. Combined, these form the union of spirit and body surrounded by light. This reinterpretation is not just a clever translation. It marks a radical philosophical shift, from an external chariot belonging to God to an internal light body belonging to the human being, from being carried by divinity to activating one's own divine vehicle of ascension. This axis, from the objective chariot to the subjective light body, is the key that separates the ancient tradition of the Merkaba from modern Merkaba practice. It reflects a broader evolution of spirituality itself, from contemplating a transcendent God to turning inward and understanding the divine power within. The foundation of the Jewish tradition of the Merkaba begins in the first chapter of the book of Ezekiel. The prophet describes a vision so strange and powerful that it would become a cornerstone of Jewish mysticism for centuries. He sees a celestial chariot, radiant and complex, driven by the likeness of a man seated on a sapphire throne. The base of the chariot is formed by 4 living beings, each with 4 faces: a man, a lion, an ox, and an eagle, guardians of the 4 cardinal points of the world. Surrounding them are seraphim, appearing as flashes of fire, ascending and descending incessantly. This is the vision that gave rise to Merkaba, the work of the chariot. But unlike modern interpretations, this was not an accessible or popular path. From the beginning, the study of the Merkaba was surrounded by secrecy and fear. The rabbis taught that this vision was the most mystical passage in the entire Hebrew Bible. It could only be discussed with the most mature and learned students. The Talmud even warns of its dangers, referring to a boy who attempted to study the vision and was consumed by fire. Later traditions would expand this vision into a mystical journey known as Hekalat mysticism, the ascent through multiple heavens, each guarded by armies of angels, fire, and lightning. To pass through, seekers had to prepare with purification, secret incantations, angelic seals, and divine names. Only then could they approach the innermost palace, the throne room itself, to behold the supreme image of God. This was not meditation for peace or healing. It was a perilous path, a dangerous ascent into realms where the divine presence was overwhelming and even destructive. The early mystics understood the Merkaba as a chariot of God alone, and to approach it was to risk everything. This perspective is worlds apart from the modern Merkaba practice. For the ancients, the chariot was external, divine, and terrifying. For the modern seeker, it becomes personal, internal, and empowering. And it is in this tension between the two traditions that the story of the Merkaba truly unfolds. The vision of the Merkaba did not remain frozen in time. As Judaism evolved, so too did the meaning of the chariot. In the Middle Ages, great thinkers like Maimonides looked at Ezekiel's vision not as a literal map for mystical ascent, but as an allegory. For him, the chariot was a metaphorical language, a symbolic description of God's control over the archetypes of creation, not a fiery throne racing across the heavens. The Merkaba became a way of speaking about how the divine reveals itself to humanity. In this shift, the chariot began to turn inward, less a physical vehicle, more a spiritual philosophy. Later, in the flowering of Hasidic thought, this internalization deepened. Hasidic teachers reimagined the Merkaba not as God's chariot, but as a model for the human soul. They taught that a person should strive to be like a Merkaba, to unify all their qualities, talents, and even contradictions, just as the four living creatures of Ezekiel's vision moved together as one. This was a profound shift. The chariot was no longer only something to behold in visions of fire and lightning, it was something to embody. A spiritual psychology, a call to unify the fragmented self into a living vessel of the divine. And though the modern New Age Merkaba is a very different reinterpretation, we can see the roots of that transformation here. Long before the New Age movement, Jewish mysticism had already begun to evolve the Merkaba into an internal, symbolic, and deeply personal path. In the modern era, the Merkaba undergoes its most dramatic transformation. This reimagining is largely credited to the spiritual teacher Drunvalo Melchizedek, who in the 1970s reintroduced the concept through the lens of sacred geometry. Linking it to the flower of life and the sacred space within the heart, Melchizedek reframed the Merkaba not as God's fiery chariot, but as a personal tool for inner transformation and spiritual growth. The defining feature of the modern Merkaba is its geometric form. What was once a living, prophetic vision now becomes a symbolic blueprint, a three-dimensional star tetrahedron, two interlocking pyramids spinning in opposite directions. This star, often described as a 3D Star of David, is more than just geometry. The upward-pointing tetrahedron represents masculine energy, drawing light down from the heavens. The downward-pointing tetrahedron embodies feminine energy rising from the earth. Together, they create balance, heaven and earth, spirit and body, masculine and feminine, unified into one radiant field. Practitioners describe this as an energy field that surrounds the human body, a chariot of light activated through meditation, breath, and intention. The geometric reframing makes the Merkaba repeatable, visualizable, and accessible, a far cry from the hidden dangers and intellectual exegesis of its origins. Here the evolution is complete. The divine throne-chariot has become a personal light-body vehicle. No longer something one beholds in awe, it becomes something one can activate, embody, and live. In the 20th century, the Merkaba found new life in an unexpected way. Its modern popularization is largely attributed to the spiritual teacher Drunvalo Melchizedek, who reintroduced the concept in the 1970s. Drawing on the principles of sacred geometry, Melchizedek wove the Merkaba into a wider web of esoteric ideas, from the flower of life to what he called the sacred space within the heart. His teachings reframed the Merkaba not as a distant, divine chariot, but as a personal tool for inner transformation and spiritual growth. At the heart of this reinterpretation is the symbol itself. The modern Merkaba is envisioned as a three-dimensional star tetrahedron, two interlocking pyramids spinning in opposite directions. Imagine the Star of David lifted into 3 dimensions and brought to life. Each tetrahedron carries symbolic meaning. The upward-pointing pyramid represents masculine energy, drawing light down from the heavens. The downward-pointing pyramid represents feminine energy, rising from the earth. In balance, they form a radiant energy field said to surround the human body, a chariot of light, activated through meditation and breath. This geometric reframing is the cornerstone of the modern tradition. By translating a fiery prophetic vision into a visualizable form, the Merkaba becomes something repeatable, teachable, and accessible. Instead of being reserved for the few, it becomes available to the many. Here, the transformation is complete. What was once the divine throne-chariot of Ezekiel has become a light-body vehicle for the seeker, a way to harmonize spirit and matter, heaven and earth, the masculine and feminine within. The ancient chariot has been reborn, not as something to behold, but as something to embody. Though they share a similar name, the Jewish Merkabah and the modern Merkaba are worlds apart. To place them side by side is to witness not a continuity, but a profound reversal of meaning. The Merkaba of Jewish mysticism emerged nearly 2,000 years ago, in the 2nd century of the Common Era. It was born from the intellectual struggle to interpret Ezekiel's vision of a fiery living chariot, the divine throne carried by wheels within wheels, guarded by winged beings of light. The modern Merkaba, however, first appeared in the 1970s, as part of the New Age movement's vast synthesis of global esoteric teachings. Instead of visions of heaven, it centers on the star tetrahedron, two interlocking pyramids spinning in sacred geometry. The sources could not be more different. The ancient mystics rooted their practice in scripture, in the raw and trembling vision of a prophet. The modern tradition draws from geometry and symbolism, translating mystery into a repeatable, visualized form. Even the names diverge. In Hebrew, Merkaba simply means chariot. In the modern reinterpretation, Merkaba is reimagined as 3 Egyptian syllables: light, spirit, body. From the throne of God, it became the vessel of the individual, and then the purpose. For the Jewish mystics, the Merkaba was not to be entered lightly. It was the dangerous ascent into heavenly palaces, reserved for the few who dared to glimpse divine glory. For the modern seeker, the Merkaba is an accessible meditation, a tool for healing, balance, and personal awakening. What once was a guarded path of awe and peril has become a widely shared practice of light and growth. From divine throne to human light body, from a mystery to be feared to a symbol to be embraced. This is not a seamless continuation. It is a transformation, a rebirth. And in that rebirth, the meaning of the chariot itself has changed forever. The story of the Merkaba is more than the history of a symbol. It is a mirror reflecting the evolution of humanity's spiritual imagination. In its ancient Jewish form, the Merkaba was approached with trembling awe. It was not a path chosen freely, but one undertaken with ritual, discipline, and fear of the overwhelming presence of the divine. To ascend was to risk, for the Chariot of God was not meant for casual travelers. In its modern rebirth, the Merkaba has become something profoundly different. Reimagined as a star tetrahedron, a vehicle of light and balance, it is no longer distant or perilous, but intimate, a geometry of the soul, accessible to any seeker who dares to look inward. This transformation is not a contradiction, it is a testament to the enduring human quest for transcendence. Whether cloaked in visions of prophets or spun into the patterns of sacred geometry, the heart of the journey is the same. A yearning to rise beyond the limits of the self, to touch the mystery, to become more than flesh and time. From throne to light body, from collective awe to personal empowerment, the Merkaba has shifted with us. It reminds us that spirituality is never static. It adapts, evolves, and speaks anew to each generation. And so, the chariot continues its journey, not in the heavens above alone, nor in ancient texts gathering dust, but in us. In our breath, in our visions, in our will to awaken. The Merkaba, in all its forms, endures as a symbol of the same timeless truth. The human spirit is destined to move, to ascend, and to seek the light. You have journeyed through the ancient visions, the mystical chariots, and the modern light-body teachings of the Merkaba. Now the question is not just what it is, but what it can awaken within you. The chariot of light is not distant. It is not reserved for prophets or mystics. It resides within you, waiting for your intention, your breath, and your courage to spin it into motion. Today, you can step into balance, align your energies, and activate the light that has always been a part of your being. If this exploration inspired you, take it further. Meditate, visualize, and let the Merkaba guide you toward your higher self. And if you want to continue uncovering the mysteries of consciousness, ancient wisdom, and spiritual transformation, subscribe. Share your thoughts in the comments and join this journey of awakening. Remember, the light is not somewhere out there. It's already within you. Activate it, embody it, become the chariot. Until next time, Universal Consciousness signing out.